Morning everybody, Silverbolt here, back for another Transformers review. Back rather early, seeing as I want to carry on painting, but then I realised I didn't do a review at all last week, because I was at a job interview, which I didn't get. So I thought I'd better do a review now, so I thought I'll do it early, then I'll get dressed in a mad panic when I'm finished painting my town. But going to be doing, as per the title page, animated Swoop, deluxe class toy. Now Swoop is created along with the other two Dinobots by Professor Sumdac in the first series, when Professor Sumdac wants to do a Jurassic Park's redeco with animatronics robots instead of, clone bred from frog DNA. Shut up, Artie. And Swoop's one of the ones that's created and is then altered, manipulated by Megatron. So when they shed their organic looking skin, you're left with the Dinobots. Now Swoop I'd say that he's the least inclined towards violence, but only in the way that Grimlock is the quickest to be violent. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's not violent. It's just that Grimlock's usually faster off the mark than him. Now, when Swoop and the others are beaten by the Dinobots, Prowl is reluctant to kill them, and so puts them on an island, where it has to be said the Dinobots are fairly content. They're content with fighting each other. They're content with blowing up their own island, their own Dinobot island. They don't feel the need that they've got to come over and start terrorising people in the various cities of the world, namely because the Autobots would have their work cut out for them to actually try and stop them. So the Dinobots are left alone and fairly forgotten about for a while, until Swoop suddenly kidnaps Sari. And it turns out the Dinobots have been tortured by Meltdown into working for them. The Autobots, of course, jump in. Prowl, having been caught out that he defied Prime again, and the Autobots save the Dinobots and leave them in peace. Are the Dinobots grateful? No! Well, I suppose they are actually. They're very grateful. They let them live. And they would show up again when Black Arachnia starts using her feminine wiles to control the Dinobots, and Grimlock believes that Black Arachnia loves him the most because he beat up the other two. But yes, and despite the rather disturbing connotations in such a very kiddie cartoon of the giant T-Rex and the giant spider doing it, Grimlock's got a flaming sword. What else? No! Don't go there! Anyway, oh, my mind can make disturbing images when it wants to. Anyway, Swoop manages to give Chin Boy a right good bashing when they invade his territory, and that's another example of how the Dinobots are quite happy to do what they do as long as they're left alone. Excuse me, they're quite happy to do what they do as long as they're left alone. It's only when Ultra Magnus and Sentinel Prime invade Swoop's territory that Swoop goes uber meltdown on their ass. Like all the Dinobots, he is capable of breathing fire. That's a little gift from Megatron, and his weapon is fire-based as well, as in the big flail thing, which I'll get to in a bit. When Black Arachnia took over, Swoop was probably the one that was least concerned about her leaving. Swoop seems very indifferent. Whether that's because he simply doesn't have a personality, or whether they haven't given him a personality, or whether it just simply hasn't come to the fore yet, don't know. But Swoop seems very indifferent. He's very reliant on Grimlock telling him what to do. If Grimlock draws his weapon, Swoop will draw his weapon, but he wouldn't do it first. Swoop, of course, doesn't talk. We didn't even know he could transform until much later on. But then until Grimlock figured out how to transform, the Dinobots didn't realise they could. So, Swoop doesn't talk. Neither does Snarl. Slag. Snarl. The Triceratops thingy. Snarl. because for some reason they didn't call the Triceratops slag. Probably because of its connotations in the 21st century. I'm going to be a huge hulking behemoth. What do? You're going to be a slanderous term for a promiscuous woman, or a promiscuous man, depending which way you look at it, because both crimes are, well, but I wouldn't even call them crimes, but both are just as supposedly bad as each other. I'm not going into that one, because that's a whole different point of view kind of job. Anyway, very random tangent, even for me. I think I've covered all I need to say about the Dinobots, except for one thing. The Dinobots, of course, are painted with, you're not going to be able to see it, but the Autobot symbol. But to say that the Dinobots are Autobots is to say it's like saying, well, Swoop's not violent at this moment in time because he's asleep. You know, the Dinobots aren't Autobots. They're more like, they remind me more of Wood Elves from Warhammer Fantasy Battle. They're capricious by nature. You know, well, they're like nature itself. They can be both gentle and they can be wholesomely violent. They're neither good nor evil. They just are. They're very isolationist, but they're also hugely confrontational if anybody invades their territory. They're capricious by nature. You know, Grimlock might just walk past you at one point. Other times he'll bite off your head. It depends on his mood. So to call them Autobots is a very imaginative stretch, to say the least. They're not evil, as I said, but they're not good either. On to the toy itself. This Swoop is much more reminiscent, apart from the overly long legs, of an actual Pteranodon. More so than the much more blockified version that was the G1 version. So aside from the overly long legs, it is a much more accurate representation of an actual Pteranodon. Transforming it, now you'd think this would be really simple, you know, fold the wings back, pull the arms down, pull that bit and done. You'd think that transforming it would be really simple. It's actually not, and the first few times it can be a little tricky. So you go pull the wings off, pull the legs down, which I can currently not do, of course. There we go. Pull the legs down. Lift the back piece up that the wings are on. Turn the legs round at the knee. And that's one of my points of contention, which I'll get to. And then you've got to take the chest component and lift it, push Swoop's Dinobot head down, and lift it into place. And then you have to push that, and whilst hoping that the other two bits don't fall down, lock them into place as well. And the first few times you'll do it, in fact every time you'll bloody do it probably, knowing me, it can be a little tricky. And I also think that it's because of the way you've got to almost force them into place. It's probably something that's going to wear quite quickly. Fold the wings down and job's a good one. Done, pretty much. Okay, now where this toy is concerned, it's a very show accurate toy and it's quite a nice toy. You know, there's a little bit of meh attached to it, you know, it doesn't do anything special. My main gripe of contention is this. The fact that the knees bend forwards. And during the transformations, I haven't turned the waist. During the transformation sequence, you actually have to turn the legs round so that at the knee, so they do that. Now, why they couldn't have made the toy, I mean, you can do it like this, but you've got the gaping holes in the plastic there, and have them like that, because then the knee bends the correct way. I mean, it still bends backwards slightly. I mean, it still bends backwards to the most certain degree. However, I can't really show you. So it still bends slightly back at the knee, but it seems to be bending from the thigh joint rather than the knee joint itself. So it makes more sense to me to have it more like that, but Hasbro didn't go that way for some reason, and that's my main gripe of contention about the toy. The other thing that I've noticed is the chain. Apart from the actual chain length actually looking nothing like the Hasbro stop motion stock picture, if any of you've got Swoop, take a look at the flame ball. There's like clear orange plastic in there, which leads me to believe that it's a gimmick, like Grimlock's springy outy flame sword, that Hasbro at some point abandoned. You know, you push this little bit, I'd imagine, and then the flames would shoot out the sides. Doesn't do that anymore. Maybe it's because they didn't want to give a gimmick feature to a deluxe toy than they would give on a Voyager toy. I don't know. But as I said, overall a nice toy. Certainly worth getting the 3 Dinobots. I'm currently still missing Snarl, because I have Grimlock. Then I will do a review of animated Grimlock at some point as well. It's certainly nice having all 3 of them. Swoop I quite like, despite the fact that he does look very anorexic, but then he's very show accurate, so not a surprise he looks anorexic. I'm going to see if I can get him to perch on my little finger. Not on my little finger, but this isn't going to work. There we go. Hi little birdie. I'm random this morning. But anyway, yes, I like it, but it doesn't strike out. Admittedly, my opinions of animated, the more I'm getting the toys, as I said in the Megatron video, are changing. So I do like it, but there's nothing humongously special about it. But anyway, that's me done for now. I mean, it is only a deluxe class, so it's only going to set you back about £10 in the UK. Tesco is selling this guy, by the way. They also got a load of the Universe line in. I saw Acid Storm, Galvatron, Ironhide and Sideswipe in there. Naturally enough, I've got all of them. But anyway, for now, this is Silverbolt with Animated Swoop signing off, saying au revoir, adios, auf Wiedersehen.